Meeting is now in session. We will start with the Pledge of Allegiance. If everybody would rise and join us up here. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And now our special guest, who may be here forever, Venus Wolf.
Chair Keldorf,
Here.
Vice Chair Heschler,
I'm here.
Commissioner Newman,
Yes, present.
Commissioner Magai,
Present.
Commissioner Inga.
Present.
That's everyone, right?
Thank you. Now is the time for public communications. Anybody wishing to come up and address the dais about something that is not on our public hearing agenda, now's the time. Seeing none, we'll close public communications. Are there any written communications this evening? I don't think so. Right?
no.
No. Okay. Thanks. Moving on to consent calendar, just one item, approval of April 25th commission meeting minutes. Unless there are any comments, take a motion to approve consent calendar.
So moved?
A second?
Okay, we'll take roll call vote.
Chair Keldorf,
Yes.
Vice Chair Heschler,
Yes.
Commissioner Newman,
Yes.
Commissioner Magai,
Aye.
and Commissioner Inga.
Yes.
Okay, moving right along, no continued business. This next item was continued from last session. Public hearing on an administrative use permit to allow the sale of beer and wine for on-site consumption and live entertainment at a restaurant operating in conjunction with a new Love Life Fitness Center at 740 South Pacific Coast Highway. Do you have a staff presentation?
Yeah, Chair, tonight's staff presentation is going to be presented by our Assistant Planner, Maria Baldenegro.
Thanks, Maria.
Good evening, Chair and members of the Plan Commission. The applicant, Brett Engstrom, proposes alcohol service at a restaurant inside a membership-only health and wellness fitness center for Love Life. The site is at 740 South Pacific Coast Highway. This item was originally scheduled for April 25th. The item was continued by the request of the applicant to provide additional time to modify the project. An updated description of the project was submitted to staff on April 22nd. The project is proposed at Plaza El Segundo, former Best Buy tenant space. The site is located in the C4 zone, which allows restaurants, private recreation, and fitness uses. This is a unique opportunity for Love Life to establish their flagship location of a holistic experience that integrates nourishing plant-based food, medical care, and wellness therapies to promote healing all under one roof. The original proposal was for alcohol service at the restaurant with a small outdoor dining area. The new proposal includes alcohol service and food in a waiting area adjacent to the pickleball courts and live entertainment a few times a month at the restaurant and the meeting room. According to the municipal code, an AUP is required for alcohol service at a restaurant. And the municipal code defines a restaurant as any business establishment, building, or structure where food or drink are prepared and served for consumption either on or off the premises. The partial floor plan illustrates the location of the restaurant and the waiting area adjacent to the 3 pickleball courts. The restaurant is clearly delineated and complies with the definition of the code. The waiting viewing area is not immediately adjacent to the restaurant. It is approximately 80 feet away and separated by a lobby and a corridor. Given the definition of the restaurant and this waiting area not being part of the restaurant, there is some ambiguity on whether this can be identified as ancillary to the restaurant. since this type of configuration has not come up in the past for an AUP. The code does allow the director to defer the decision to the Planning Commission. And in doing so, staff is seeking that the Planning Commission confirm that alcohol and food service be permitted ancillary to the restaurant for the waiting area, adjacent to the pickleball courts. So you could see the purple dashed area, that's the path of travel for someone that would have to get a drink, and so it's quite a distance. If the Planning Commission confirms staff's determination that the pickleball waiting area is part of the restaurant, staff has prepared the attached resolution with the required findings and conditions of approval for the project. If the Planning Commission determines that the pickleball waiting viewing area is not part of the restaurant, the resolution can be modified. Staff believes that the findings can be made to warrant the approval of the project, with the waiting area being ancillary to the restaurant. Therefore, staff recommends that the Planning Commission permit, under the definition of the restaurant, ancillary food and alcohol service at the waiting viewing area adjacent to the pickleball courts, and adopt a resolution conditionally approving the project. And that concludes my presentation. We do have the applicant's representative here that can answer any questions you may have.
Thank you, Maria. Any questions for staff before inviting the applicant up?
I have questions, but the applicant could probably answer it.
Sure. Great. Come on up. We'll open public communications. First right to the applicant, if you could just introduce yourself again, and I'm excited to hear a little bit more about the concept in general.
Okay. Good evening, Commissioners. My name is Brett Engstrom. I'm here on behalf of the applicant, Healthy America El Segundo. They are looking to open their newest location at the Plaza El Segundo in the old Best Buy building. I'm sure we've all been in there a few times. It will be a new health and wellness center, which will include fitness aspects, wellness therapy, massage tables. It's could really captivate your whole day by walking in there. Part of the operation will be an on-site restaurant, which will serve a selection of freshly prepared items with an emphasis on vegetarian and organically sourced items. They will also serve a full menu of beverages, including specialty juices, teas, chai, coffee, and a small selection of beer and wine. And that would be the basis of our main application before you. Beer and wine service would be available within the main restaurant area, within the outdoor patio, which is just in front of the building, but still off the public right away. It's still on the parcel. Within the multi-purpose and meeting room, which is adjacent when that is in use. When they're especially busy, they will open that up. When they have a meeting in that room, they'll open up that room. The item of discussion tonight would be the viewing area next to the pickleball courts. This is an area where I haven't jumped on a pickleball court yet myself, but apparently it's crazy popular. And it's become a social event, so people like to watch and comment on the other players on the court. So they would like to do food and beverage service in this area as well. It is approximately 360 square feet in front of the pickleball courts. I can draw an analogy of a satellite patio that we've done multiple times for different operators. The first one that pops to mind is the Grove, downtown Los Angeles. The main fountain in the center, there are tables around that fountain. You can get food and beverage service there from one of the restaurants surrounding. Whichever restaurant has that license, it is included within their ABC diagram, and the food and beverage and beer and wine service is directed from that restaurant. So that is my first analogy to this pickleball court. It is still well within the building. It's not going outside. It is a membership use building, so they will have identities on everyone in the building. And I think we can do it in a responsible and safe manner. That being said, I don't want to talk too much. I'd love to open it up to your questions, any comments you have.
Can you go back to the graphic? Well, Brett is
The partial floor plan?
Yeah, yeah. Thank you.
The pickleball courts are inside? This
They
is
are.
voluntary, okay. I don't know that I've ever seen an indoor pickleball court.
This is kind of a unique operation. You'll be surprised when you go in. There's one in Miami right now that's really killing it. They're really doing quite well.
Chicken and Pickle in Phoenix is, now that's outdoor, but it's
Yeah.
kind of indoor, and it is just insane.
You can't get on a court in Pasadena right now.
So, so the pickleball courts are up there, the restaurant's down at the bottom, and so the area in white where the purple is, that is the area that you're interested in having extra alcohol sales that is unrelated to the restaurant, but next to it, adjacent.
The small rectangle at the bottom of the pickleball courts where it says waiting and viewing area, 360 square feet, there are seats in there, there's a counter that is viewing the pickleball courts. That's where the service and consumption would take place.
Oh, I see. It's the heckling zone,
I
I think.
For
is what
lack
you
of a
mean.
better term, that's
Yeah.
exactly what it is.
So can someone wander from the indoor dining room with the beer and walk over to the waiting room?
So our plan was to have service, someone there to take an order and deliver it. That would remove the possibility of any issues with the public area, the lobby, the pathways. So you can make an order at the viewing section and it'll be delivered to you.
Gotcha. And it's a private club? Can just anybody come in there and have a meal?
So the restaurant will be open to the public, but the rest of the facility is membership.
So the waiting area is, that we're referencing, the 360 square feet is not open to the public, that area,
No, it's part of the membership
the
facility.
membership area? And is it completely contained?
It's contained. There's a wall surrounding it. There's a door or a gate on the left-hand side, a gate in front between it and the pickleball. There's a wall on this side and a wall on the bottom, a pony wall.
And then right behind it is what, right below it? But that's part of what, that's an additional, what is that area behind it?
The semicircle, for example, is bicycles, cycling classes.
Okay, so
And
it's
so the-
another room of,
Another-
a workout room with,
Yes.
for a spin cycle class?
Is the restaurant going to be open 24 hours a day, or?
No, the restaurant will have the same operating hours as the entire facility, which is 6 a.m. to 10 p.m. daily. So really not a late operation. They're not looking for a night crowd. It's really for a fitness crowd and for those that have free time during the week, I guess.
Is it safe to, have you been in at Bay Club where that restaurant Cafe Vita is in the front and it's public access?
Yeah, so
But-
the restaurant will be open to the public.
And then the desk is right behind it to control traffic so that
Yes,
you're not
yep,
having, okay.
similar
Okay,
operation.
Makes sense. My only question for staff, I guess, would be, does this, I don't see any, well, maybe, should we close public?
Yeah.
Okay, sorry. Any other questions for Mr. Engstrom?
Not at the moment.
Okay. Anybody else wanting to come and speak on this item? Now is the time. All right, with that, we'll close public communications. So this is an AUP, so if somebody else wanted to do something similar, they would still have to come in and propose this. It's not some precedent that could get, I guess, misconstrued in another way.
Yeah, that's correct. And if I can provide, Maria outlined it pretty well, but if I can provide context as to why we sort of bumped this up to a more traditional public hearing rather than a receive and file, which the AUPs typically come to the commission through a receive and file. So Maria kind of outlined the definition, and the director has determined that, we need to kick it up primarily because it's a little bit of a nuance, but the definition for restaurant is relatively specific, and the allowance for alcohol is relatively specific to being allowed in a restaurant. And so it is precedent setting in the sense that moving forward, if this is approved tonight, then it gives myself or a future director a level of understanding that something like this configuration with these conditions of approval is sort of an acceptable interpretation of our current code, which was defined at a time when these kinds of configurations didn't exist, right? And so it'll still come before the commission, but it's more likely if it meets similar standards and it has similar conditions of approval, it'll just come to the commission as a receive and file in the future. But we wanted to at least have the conversation because this opens the door to maybe, let's say the same facility wanted to operate similar to a Dave & Buster's. We want to be able to differentiate between alcohol being served at the restaurant only and sort of the off-site patio area as the applicant described, and not necessarily be able to roam around and go to cycle class and with a beer in hand, or go to the doctor, or medical screening or anything. We wanted to be very specific about that, so that if somebody were to come to us in the future and say, hey, well, they have open carry throughout their whole facility.
Right.
We didn't really want to set that precedent, so we wanted to be able to draw that line in the sand tonight, and be able to delineate between the two different types of interpretations, because it could be interpreted that the way that this is described for a definition of a restaurant, this is all happening in an entire facility. But that was not the intent of this definition when it was written. When it was written, restaurants were the only thing in the facility. And so this is a very different concept. We may see other concepts like this in the future. And so we wanted to sort of draw the line of how literal versus how unliteral or not literal we take this definition. We think that this satisfies the intent of the definition. We also think it satisfies the intent of the AUP, and we're able to condition it and regulate it in a way where it addresses concerns of having a 40,000 square foot facility with open carry without, throughout the whole thing, versus the restaurant and this satellite patio area concept. So that's why we kicked it up to the commission. But in moving forward, until the standards for AUP change, it will still come to the commission for receive and file.
So has the applicant actually asked for just use in that 360 square foot area, or then that's what they've asked for?
Well, I'll tell you, and I think, Maria, you can correct me if I'm wrong, the original request actually was a little bit more broad, and when we went back and forth, there was a narrowing down of the request to just the waiting area. Is that correct?
At first, it was only the restaurant, and then they came back and we kind of narrowed it down to just that area. Because I did question, I was like, well, wait, are you envisioning for the entire facility? I mean, how can you play and also have a drink? It's like,
Sure it can be done.
can you get back to me with clarification on what you really want? And we did get it delineated, and they did modify the layout and added a counter.
Is this kind of like at the Whole Foods market, that they also have an area where they sell beer and wine in one corner, where you can now walk around the market with your beer and wine?
Can you walk around the market with your beer?
I don't know.
I've never tried.
I suspect that they can't.
Whole Foods,
Yeah.
Whole Foods has clearly delineated outdoor dining areas that allow alcohol, and they did request receive and file AUPs. So the restaurant areas where seating is inside, those are areas that are allowed to have consumption. They do have wine tasting events if they want. They did request it for Whole Foods. And it's obviously progressed, because originally it was a very small patio. Now, after COVID, it's like 2 huge patios in the front. I haven't seen them or heard that they are doing any more wine tasting anymore, but they are approved to have that. And it's in a delineated area inside. It's not intended to be able to carry the drink throughout the whole. It's a delineated area inside the market, and it would violate ABC if you didn't have it delineated, because children are in the market. And it has to be at least 3 feet tall. So we have fencing and plants that separate the walkway outside from the outdoor area.
Does this request in any way violate ABC?
No,
No,
it's
no.
all inside of a building. If they wanted to, they could have the entire building. The
But
only,
that is what they asked, or that is not what they
they
asked?
did not ask
Okay.
that. ABC for type 41, it's a bona fide license, which means that they do have to have a certain ratio of alcohol and food. They can't just have alcohol. If you have a higher percentage of alcohol, that would be a type 48.
This is just beer, wine?
This is beer and wine
Yeah.
only, and the ratio has to be maintained.
Right.
And it is checked by ABC
Right.
on a
And they want-
quarterly
and
basis.
all of this comes from the same kitchen. They just want to serve, be able to serve their members that may not be in the restaurant, to be able to walk around, to watch pickleball. Can you, maybe this is for the applicant again, I don't know. Can you watch the spin class? Can you watch other things from that area?
It's not intended, it's intended for that pickleball court.
Just
but
for the pickleball
But it
area.
will not be sealing the floor walls. There's gonna be airflow within the facility, so in theory, you could stand there and see what's going on the other side or the next section over, but that's not the intent whatsoever. That's the heckle factor again, to be at the.
Right.
It's not as much fun to heckle a spin biker. So is the intent that this thing's separated from the restaurant, and that's what makes it unique?
Yeah, well, what makes it unique, if you read the definition liberally, we could approve an AUP, and we're recommending approval tonight, but if you read this definition liberally, then it says that a restaurant is the entire structure, right? And this entire building, the whole, I think it's 35 or 40,000 square feet, is the entire structure. Food is served in the lower left-hand corner, sort of the building, but by a liberal interpretation, you could consider saying, hey, based on that definition, we're okay with alcohol being served anywhere in this facility. But we don't believe that was the intent of this specific definition. So we just wanted to be able to sort of confirm that tonight. Maybe there's a time and place where that does make sense. We don't think it makes sense in this scenario, which is why we're being very specific about the location, which ABC will also want to know as well. ABC is very specific about where they locate the service of alcohol, which is why if you go to the Grove and the sort of satellite area, it's still roped off, it's designated, it's delineated, as Maria is explaining, for that reason. But we just wanted to use this opportunity tonight to really sort of establish what the expectation is for the commission today.
Right. And food can be served in the waiting room, or it's just, okay.
Yeah.
So it is a satellite of the restaurant. You know, in another situation, the Richmond Bar and Grill, they have that back patio. It's, separated by another patio. I mean, if that patio were 80 feet away instead of 20 feet away, is that kind of the same situation? I mean, it's just.
Yeah, and they received a temporary use permit specifically to delineate that location. Because ABC will not allow the service of alcohol without that city permit saying that this area is approved for alcohol service and sales.
Okay. All right. Great, thank you.
And that's why staff doesn't feel like we're not adjusting this definition. Is there any reason to, and does that complicate the process?
I don't know. I think if we have a determination tonight, I think we know enough. It's probably not worth tweaking this by much. It's really just an interpretation.
For me, I think, in El Segundo, we embrace innovation, right? I think that the whole concept of this wellness center with the indoor pickleball court is amazing. You're capitalizing on the pickleball craze right now. You're being innovative there, but also kind of finding this innovative solution for getting, alcohol to where you think it's important to do. So I think, for me, I appreciate, what you're trying to bring to the city and your solutions to, try to make your establishment more successful, so.
Nothing further, just don't add a DJ and make it a nightclub.
I was wondering where that, if entertainment was part of that deal.
Yeah.
Right.
It did talk about entertainment.
Yeah,
And
please.
what is that component?
So they're thinking more of maybe a couple of acoustic musicians in the corner, maybe on a Sunday afternoon. It would be within the building, it wouldn't be outside, it wouldn't go late, there wouldn't be additional fees involved to see any kind of music, no dancing is requested.
Yeah, can you dance?
That
And
seems
why
to
not?
be where we draw the line.
Very ancillary and for, background atmosphere type thing.
Right. To be clear, you're not asking for a nightclub.
And actually, before you leave, I mean, this is a cool concept. You got a world stage here. Do you guys want to talk about when you're opening? What how does this work?
They're hoping to be open by midsummer. So it's gangbusters, they're in construction, I think they've been in and out of building and safety already, and they're ready to go. So they were very, very pleased with getting on this agenda tonight. Thank you, planning staff, everybody for bringing this up. So they're ready to go.
You have how many?
The main one is in Miami. That is the big hit. They tried to do one near Culver City, but the space was not quite right. Culver City's a little too busy. There's nowhere to park. There's no time to get in there. This is a much better location. Plaza El Segundo is it's already set up. A lot
So,
of parking spaces, a lot of.
Walk us through. It's membership-based.
Membership-based.
It's unlike a Spectrum or a Bay Club. It's unlike a gym, but yet it's a gym.
With a little more holistic and wellness approach.
And okay, I know what that means, but how do you infuse that?
They have, special juicing counters. They have special cleansing treatments, almost like a spa.
Okay.
With a pickleball court, curiously enough.
And spin
classes and
what other
massage
classes?
therapy.
Massage. And what else do they offer?
I really can't do it justice because I'm not sure I'm the demographic exactly. But it is supposed to be a whole holistic and wellness experience. So you come in and you feel like a different person when you leave through
Facials,
nutrition, facial
facial.
treatments, massage treatments.
Do they have a retail component? Are they selling?
I'm sure there's a
clothes?
retail component within. That would make complete sense.
Do we know what a membership runs you?
I don't. I can't find out, but I don't want to tell you the wrong number. But I'm sure there will be some kind of grand opening specials.
Right. And it is only membership? You can't come in and use it
I'm
like a
sure
day spa?
membership
Day,
and guests.
day passes, maybe?
For commissioners, I'm sure there's some day pass.
That's, I'm sure there's some violation there, so we can't go there, sorry.
Is the Miami facility open?
It is open,
Oh, okay.
and it's, Miami's a different place. A little.
A little different than El Segundo.
Is it as comprehensive as this?
Yeah.
It is with some different aspects. I think they run a full bar there,
Oh, okay.
which tying into wellness and holistic and a full bar, I haven't put those together in my mind, but, yeah, it's a
Yeah.
little slightly flashier, I think.
But under the same brand?
Yes. Yeah, the website, look it up. It's interesting. I don't know if I could live in Miami. It's not quite, but.
Perfect. We will check it out. Thank you. Okay. I don't think we have any other comments. If somebody wants to make a motion, I'm all about it.
I'll move.
A second with the adoption of resolution 2951 and AUP 24-01.
I'll second. As proposed.
As proposed.
All right, let me do how Jasmine has hers here. Commissioner Newman,
Aye.
Commissioner McGuy,
Aye.
Commissioner Inga,
Aye.
Vice Chair Heschler,
Yep.
and Chair Keldorf.
Yes.
Motion passed 5-0.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Thank
Good luck.
you. Yeah, we'll look forward to the opening.
Yeah.
Perfect.
I gotta go make a phone call right now.
Make an appointment.
No new business items. Is there a report from the Community Development Director?
Sure. So I do want to sort of daylight and give the commission an update on, a couple items that have come to the commission and recently gone through city council, only because I think it's worth noting, and Paul's not here and Eduardo's not here, but, just the amount of work that the planning division has done over the last couple of years on the housing element, the downtown specific plan, the Smoky Hollow specific plan, and a plethora of zone text amendments to help support the continued sort of innovation, as Commissioner McGuy is talking about, that we really try to look for solutions, in our department, in our division, to help problem solve and identify maybe market trends and respond to those as quickly as possible, but also at the same time, dealing with, state legislations that's being handed down to us that we have to respond to and get through. And specifically the housing element and the rezoning that just recently went through and all those zone text amendments, those were codified through second reading earlier this week at the council meeting. And, I can't really overstate, it's not possible to overstate how important those things are for us. And sometimes they're difficult conversations, and sometimes it's not fun to have those conversations, but I really can't impress enough how great of an experience it has been from a staff level, working with this commission and working with this staff, and how much particularly Paul and Eduardo have done to really carry that torch and get us to where we need to be. Everything always takes longer than we wish it would, but I'm super excited and proud that we've been able to get to that point. And our next step for the housing element is the rezoning and these zone text amendments I get to submit this week to HCD. And fingers crossed, they don't bump their head in the shower and forget that they told us all you have to do is the rezone. And I'm expecting them to formally certify. They've already indicated that our housing element is compliant, but they can't formally certify it until we finish that rezoning. So I'm looking forward to them accepting our housing element officially and formally certifying it. And with that, also earlier this week on Tuesday night, the City Council introduced for first reading the downtown specific plan update, which was almost a 3-year long process. It was about 2.5 years. When I first started, the contract had just been awarded, and it was several months before we actually got going, because we were still working on the housing element at that point. We were trying to sort of tie up the bow on the housing element. So Paul has been working diligently with the consultant team to wrap that downtown specific plan, and if you remember, the public engagement piece was so hard to get, and so we pushed that out another 6 months, so everything took a little bit longer because that was sort of the wrap up at the tail end of the pandemic, and it was just hard to get folks to participate. And so everything, got pushed about a half a year, but we wound up with what I think is a great, unique document that's going to help downtown and really speaks to the vision of the commission, who was sort of the driving force behind where the downtown specific plan wound up. And I think only one person spoke at the city council meeting on behalf of the specific plan, and so we either bored everybody to death in the community, or hopefully we addressed all of the relative issues that people thought were important enough to speak about in the downtown specific plan. But with that, there was one item which the commission knows that came before you during your public hearing for the downtown specific plan, which was nightclubs and museums. So as part of the Planning Commission's recommendation was to include the allowance of museums in all of the 4 districts, right? And include the allowance of nightclubs in the Grand Avenue district with an AUP. And then there were several development standards that we had talked about, like size and floor area for the dance floor and the queuing. And so we included that in our presentation on Tuesday night, and at the end of the deliberation, there was a lot of discussion about several components of the specific plan. There was the traffic and circulation component, there was the private realm and public realm components, but museums and nightclubs and then outdoor dining sort of dominated most of the conversation. Museums, the city council accepted and approved the museums be approved by right in all of the 4 districts. Where we landed on nightclubs was that they would be permitted in the Grand Avenue district, similar to your recommendation, but through a conditional use permit as opposed to an administrative use permit. And so that was the slight difference. Trying to think, those 2 things were really the only 2 changes made to the downtown specific plan. As it relates to outdoor dining, the downtown specific plan included a program action, or I can't remember what they call the goals, or to implement the goals. I think they're action items actually, but it did include a program action item to create the avenue for outdoor dining in the public right-of-way, inclusive of the sidewalk and the parking lane or the roadway, just the right-of-way in general. So instead of waiting for the downtown specific plan to be adopted and then staff get to work on that policy document to implement it, we did that concurrently. And we brought a draft guideline to council back in September of the downtown specific plan, or I'm sorry, March. We did that in March. We brought the draft guidelines to council in March to show downtown specific plan is not updated yet, but when we update it, here's the guidelines that we want to implement. And we took that implementation directly from the downtown specific plan because that's the document that painted the vision for it. We want the aesthetics, we want the look, we want the feel to match what we want the downtown to look like. And so the design guidelines for Main Street are different than the design guidelines for the Richmond Street, which are different than the guidelines for Grand or Standard or I guess we don't go far as eucalyptus, but we wanted the design guidelines to correlate with where they actually were situated physically or geographically. And so the program guidelines simply pointed back to the downtown specific plan and said, whatever you build in terms of outdoor dining, it's going to be compared to the design guidelines that are established by the downtown specific plan. The program guidelines simply just painted the administrative process. It sort of spelled out the administrative process for somebody, what they have to go through in order to permit outdoor dining. So as part of that conversation, parking came up. Street parking was a very important issue to whether or not we limit the outdoor dining in the parking strip due to the sort of the lack of inventory or possibly the usurping of public parking with outdoor dining, the concern that if everybody exercises a right to have outdoor dining in the parking lane, then we no longer have public parking on the street. Where council landed for now was that we would leave it as is, but I believe that there's probably a concern that's something that we need to pay attention to see if there is a preponderance of outdoor dining that starts to usurp the availability of parking on the street. But as Paul mentioned on Tuesday night and we discussed, we know that there's approximately 1,700 parking spaces in the downtown, both public and private. And based on the parking survey that was done in 2022, late 2022, we know sort of the availability. We know that at its worst hour, at the highest peak of demand, we know that it doesn't pierce 80% usability or use, I guess. So we know that there's at its worst, there's always at least 20% of the parking available. So I think for the time being, we believe that it's not going to create a problem, but it's something that we need to watch, we need to pay attention to see if that demand starts to exceed the supply.
And that can be modified as.
Certainly, yeah.
Good.
The policy. I think for me where the disconnect was when I heard a conversation that, yes, we're approving the downtown specific plan, but the idea of Main Street being 2 lanes and widening the sidewalks, we don't have to do that. That's theoretical. Which to me, then the outdoor dining ordinance only really makes sense in conjunction with widening the sidewalks to accommodate outdoor dining and then reconfiguring parking. I just never in my mind intended that we would have, one without the other. So it was a little concerning to hear them say, well, we don't really have to go down to just 2 lanes, but then if you're going to have parking.
Couldn't you do a parklet, like what happened during the pandemic?
Yeah.
Now granted, it did go down to 1 lane there, but sidewalks didn't get wider. There were solutions there to do that. But.
I think the discussion on the different circulation concepts, I believe the lack of committing to one was more. I believe the intention was to not get caught up in that discussion which would prevent sort of this progress of getting the downtown specific plan adopted. The downtown specific plan identified, and as was recommended by the Planning Commission, a preferred concept. And that preferred concept was adopted in the downtown specific plan, but what staff explained was that is the preferred concept because that's the feedback we got from the community, it's what the Planning Commission recommended, but there are alternatives. Because maybe in 5 years or in 10 years, when we finally secure funding to do something, maybe we need different concepts to be able to explore, and we need to be able to study different ideas or different layouts, different configurations. And as Paul mentioned on Tuesday night, by including the different array of concepts, it was already included in the CEQA analysis. So it's not something you have to go redo later on down the road. I don't think that there was a lack of commitment to implement any of them. I think there was a lack of commitment to wanting to nail one down in this very moment, because we just don't know what the reality will be when we do secure funding to actually implement those improvements.
So just to be clear, we have, right now we have outdoor dining, and it looks like it does now. We've got it on sidewalks, several of the restaurants. Some of the restaurants are into the streets and take parking away. So it's sort of, it works. We're sort of just letting it work. Do those restaurants need permits for that?
That's correct. Those restaurants will all need to come
They'll
back
all need to-
through the process.
Okay,
Yeah, to do it through our permitting, our new permitting process.
so if a restaurant chose to bring sidewalk dining outside in front and not take parking away, they could just pretty much do that as it's permitted. If they wanted to take away parking, they'd have to show good cause to do so, and it could be permitted. So we're really just moving forward with sort of what we have. We're not talking about closing streets or anything the way we've done before.
That's right, currently. The outdoor
Currently.
dining program is not contemplating any street closures
Exactly.
or anything of that nature.
So as things are, they can continue until we realize that it's just bigger and it's a problem. But it's, right now, it's not a problem. Basically, that's what we're saying.
I think that's fair.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. And yes, I know we said it a little bit last meeting, but definitely want to reiterate the amount of work that went into all of these initiatives. So thank you very much. The entire planning staff has been spectacular, and thank you for leading the charge. So it feels good to have, I do hear some scary words like builder's remedy, and so having a housing element in compliance is a good thing.
Yeah.
I think it's also really surprising the things that come up, like never in a million years did I think that museums and nightclubs would be the majority of the conversation. Housing was mentioned like 3 times in the entire 4 hours, so bizarre, but that's how it goes, I guess. Yeah.
I really like using the term music bar. I think that's
Right?
much
Much,
better
yeah.
than a nightclub.
Agreed.
Yeah.
Like that.
Thank you. No, we don't have
It's on the
city
phone.
attorney. Oh, anything from the city attorney's office?
Not today, Madam Chair.
Thanks, Joaquin. Planning commissioner comments. Mr. Inga?
Not tonight.
Ms. Newman?
No, not for me either. Just want to welcome the applicant to El Segundo. We look forward to those day spas passes.
I have a question for Joaquin, and maybe this is, he doesn't have to answer this now, but, you know, SB 9 was just overturned in Redondo Beach, which is a charter city, and I wondered, Joaquin, what do you know? How will that affect us? And again, maybe you don't have that full answer right now, but would just love an update on that.
Yeah, I do have some thoughts. So it's limited to not only just charter cities, but charter cities that were the petitioners that sued. So it's tethered to those, I want to say, half a dozen cities that took action. And so right now it's likely going to be appealed, but with El Segundo as a general law city, it can avail itself of the benefits of that, and technically at this point, other charter cities cannot as well. Only those half a dozen at this moment, and it was really anchored on a lack of findings in the law tying it to a need for affordable housing. So there is a scenario where there's legislative cleanup that addresses it and eventually applies it to charter cities. But I do understand that the council is, so yeah, I mean, we provided memos to council on the topic, but it is very limited and temporary. So there are avenues for the decision to be overturned or for the legislature just to take action to provide a legislative fix that'll essentially sidestep the SB 9 decision.
Okay, well, we'll obviously keep an eye on it, and, you know, I just wonder
Absolutely.
what sort of precedent that will set, even for general law cities at some point.
Yeah,
Thank you.
you got it.
Nothing for me, Chair.
Thank you. Thanks for bringing that up. That was that was big. But again, a way that, I feel really good about the way that planning helped us navigate that and put development standards in place. So it'll be interesting to track that. Thank you, everybody. We
Chair
are,
Kilder,
oh, yes.
One more thing I need to ask since everybody's here. It's been brought to my attention, and I forgot to bring this up a little earlier, not to bash on e-bikes, but on the Strand, when you're out there in the city of El Segundo, and I know you might know this actually, Jay, but it's been brought to my attention many times. There are these groups, these young kids, and probably adults too, especially on e-bikes, that they are driving excessively fast, really, really fast, dangerously fast. Is there ever an opportunity to put a speed control, like 20 miles an hour or something, as opposed to these kids or these adults that are going 40? Is there ever an opportunity to create that? It's right down here, it's along the beach.
So LA County, right there.
It is, but isn't it City of El
There
Segundo?
was a point in time where I thought Manhattan Beach was ticketing for using the electric function on the Strand.
Well, you know how in Hermosa
I know
and in
why.
Manhattan, they've got those areas, because it's very pedestrian heavy.
Right.
So that you have to
And there-
either
and
walk by,
there's a
there's
speed
blinking,
limit
yes, yes.
thing, yep,
But even if
uh-huh.
there was just a, maximum speed, whatever is reasonable, and somebody must know whatever that might be.
So I won't be able to answer that off the top of my head, but I will say that at Tuesday night's council meeting, I know it was long, it went till like 10:30, so you have to kind of fast forward to the end. But there was a good conversation, and there was a good presentation that the police, our new police chief and captain provided, outlining there's like 4 different types of e-bikes. They all have different regulations. There's different age restrictions, different speed limitations, and so that will provide some additional context, which will, I think, help answer some of your question, because there is enforceability, even without a sign being posted, is kind of the point I'm getting at. And they are actively enforcing it.
I'm sorry to interject, but
Oh,
as
sorry,
far
go
as
ahead, Joaquin.
the miles per hour, it was noted by the police personnel that was presenting that there actually has to be some aftermarket adjustment to most of the e-bikes on the market in order to get them to go beyond a limit of 20 miles per hour. So that's something that PD said that they are seeing as folks doing aftermarket corrections. So they're having parents come in when they issue tickets and say, hey, little Timmy here clipped this wire, and so the parents will take it back to the manufacturer, the retailer, and have them readjust it. But from what I understood, most of these bikes are not supposed to go over 20 miles per hour. But as Michael said, the presentation was very thorough and robust as far as outreach, education, training, and enforcement.
So I think as part of that, probably part of the continued conversation is, will additional signage help, even if not enforcement, the education piece, the awareness piece, but as, Joaquin alluded to, the police department, described the physical modifications that they're finding, which are enabling these bikes to go much faster than they're regulated or supposed to be going. And so I think the conversation will continue, and then I will talk to the chief about, maybe further conversations, and then maybe even a presentation to this commission himself or his cadet staff or his command staff. They gave a great presentation the other night. Yeah.
And I have one more recommendation. At the Weisburn Pool, the parking lot, as you pull in and you go left, if there was just, it doesn't matter which way it goes, clockwise or counterclockwise, if there was just a path of travel, that would really help with congestion in that area when it gets crowded.
That's in the parking lot, you're saying?
As soon as you pull in, if you should you go straight and all the way around, or can you turn left and then go the other way? But to have that option where you go in, turn left, and this person goes out, then you end up head on.
It's been a
If it
while
just
since
had
I've
one
been
path
over
of
there. Is it
travel.
because of the cones that are set? Last time I was over there, they have cones set up, and it's a little confusing.
Wait, are you
Is
talking
it
about the
that?
pool side or the
pool side.
the school side?
The pool side. Yeah, the school side, you either pull in and you've got a place to park and you have to either back it out.
Yeah. It's just,
But
a-
if
it's a
the-
flag
Yeah.
shape.
If that, it just would help, it would just, it's just a thing. Just like, you know, we had, to talk about path of travel at the El Pollo, or the In-N-Out Burger out there. I mean, we talked about what that reality looked like, and so I just think that that's a good suggestion, like you've got nothing else to do, except I just think that that would be a very, a helpful suggestion, so there you have it.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay.
Okay, with that, we are adjourned until May 23rd. Thank you.